Welcome to a new episode of the Sports Mecca podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Abramo. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Hengeli. Today, we are joined by former Rutgers Scarlet Knight, Kansas State Wildcat, and retired professional basketball player, Wally Judge. Wally, thanks for coming on the podcast this evening.
Oh man, no problem at all. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, so we had an episode recently, a month ago, with you and then Jackson Cruz for Cruz Elite Basketball Academy. We talked all about the skills development, the growth of the camp, growth of the academy. But now uh, we're just going to be focusing on what you have brought to the table for many years as a college athlete and professional athlete. But before we really get into that, give us an update about what you've been up to the past couple months since we spoke last.
Well, I've been taking on some new roles in regards to Kiba. I think it's broadening my perspective on a lot of things just because I don't know what the narrative is about me necessarily, but I like to kind of be low key or humble, so to speak. So I tend to play the background, and just kind of do like all the hard, I ain't gonna say hard work, but all the like hands on stuff and now I'm just been trying to, I guess, make myself more available. So I've been handling a lot more director roles, dealing with scheduling, uh, trying to be more communicate more with the parents, just because when you do play ball or people see you at a certain point in your life, they kind of stick you there. Um, so like I had to have a meeting with parents and let them know like, hey guys, I'm whatever, I guess whatever idea you had of me, like something, totally different than what's expected. And then I'm a normal person like everybody else. Sorry, I was just getting a call. And I'm a normal person like everybody else. Like I think a lot of times when you do play college sports, and people watch you from kind of like afar, they create a narrative and they don't really know who you are as a person. So I've been doing a lot of footwork, just trying to be more open, showing them that, hey, I am a co-founder of Kiba. Parents are more open to come up to me, talk to me, passing out my cell phone number. They can give me a shout whenever. So just kind of doing more of the groundwork and being on the forefront for Kiba instead of, just being that guy who creeps in the gym with his hat on and his gym bag and yells at your kids.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, so Sam and I, we have a lot of questions about your college career, but you did have numerous seasons of playing professionally overseas starting in 2015.
Mhm.
You played in several countries such as Italy, Israel, Finland, Argentina. There might be some that I'm forgetting, but talk to us about those type of experiences that you had playing overseas.
Just to round them off, it was Italy, Israel, Argentina, Finland, and then last was Greece. Um, the quickest, or I would say the first lesson I learned at that level as being a pro, uh, was you never get comfortable. It was something that my mentor told me when I had first went overseas. I had no idea what to expect. And then I had the privilege of having a couple guys on my team that came in with me that were like notable players, coming out through high school, like LaQuentin Ross, who played at Ohio State, Kendall Williams, who played at New Mexico, Javante Reddick from VCU, Chris Wright that played at Georgetown. So but Chris came like later in the year. But one of the first things I learned was like, man, not never get comfortable and realizing that every level you start over. You know what I mean? Like one of the biggest gifts and curses for me was probably being a McDonald's All American. Just because it sticks with you no matter where you go. So you go overseas, there, even if you've had a great college career, whatever, like the first thing they're gonna ask you about is you were a superstar in high school, da 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 da, because they're trying to figure out, I guess, how to bring that back out of you. And it's like, yeah, dude, I was 16. I never got tired. So, but just never getting comfortable. Always trying to find a way to stay in the gym and work. Because a lot of people feel like they arrive once they get pro, and that's like really when the work starts. Because you don't have a schedule, you don't have a um, director of basketball operations sending you an email with your flight itinerary and your class, and you don't have an academic person picking up your books for classes and stuff. Like, nah, you got to kind of do everything yourself. Whether it's game prep, eating right, even as far as like maintenance, taking care of your body. So that was definitely the first eye-opening experience, was just, never get comfortable.
Did you notice some similarities and differences between any of the countries you played in?
Uh, Damn, that's a good question. Uh, I would say not necessarily similarities, but like it's kind of like playing in the U.S. To where like everywhere you go, people have their kind of own style. Like from like Italy and Greece were kind of similar, but Greece is a little bit more physical. You know what I mean? To where Italy is a little bit more skilled. So those might have been the closest in comparison. Uh, Israel was basically like it was like a mini NBA. Like you got a bunch of former NBA guys over there from like Amari Stoudemire, Nate Robinson. Um, you got a bunch of those guys. So a lot of the sets you run are going to be more NBA style, more pro sets. Um, Not really as far as like half court, kind of like a lot of secondary break. And then a lot of the coaches over there are like former players. So they play with a more up tempo speed. The toughest place or the most, I would say, topsy turvy, like they just did things a different way, was probably Argentina. Like they wanted us to, and I got to play for a great coach. Forgive me now, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he was actually the head coach of the Argentinian national team that beat the USA team. And he's a legend over there. He's won like 10 Argentinian championships, Olympic gold medal. And but his style of play, like he wanted the wings to feed the post, but then he wanted us to do a dribble handoff from the post to the wing. And yeah, it was just a totally different style. But like if you're a savant of the game, dude, you love every aspect of it. And like man, I've been blessed in abundance of just all the knowledge and all the different styles of play I got to see. Like even like footwork. Italy has an entirely different group of footwork. Like anything you do in the US, if you do it in Italy, it's travel.
So, we've had several former college athletes that have come on. Some college basketball players. AJ Abrams, named one of them. He played at Texas. Travis Rutherford played at Kansas. But we've asked them, at what point did they realize that it was time to retire from playing and then moving on to other endeavors? What moment did you realize that, okay, I've put my time in playing professional, I want to do something else?
Uh, this year, is that an answer? No. I mean, it's been pretty recent, man. Just because I kind of got I kind of got forced out of my career from injuries and whatnot. Like so, I've had to reinvent myself a few times, and I stepped away from or I stopped playing back in was that like 19, 2018, 2019, and part of that reason because I was dealing with residual nerve damage from having my spinal injury, and I had to really sit back and like think like, what am I playing for? You know what I mean? And for me, it was never money. and it was just my passion for it. Because like I feel like if your passion can always speak for itself. If it's something that you love to do, you're gonna do it well, and if it has a financial benefit to it, like that's all gonna come. And but when I got to that point, I had to really sit back and ask myself because like I had spinal surgery after my freshman year of college. I don't know if a lot of people knew it, um, but after working so hard as a freshman and building my body up, like I think at the time I was probably close to like 260 and I was feeling good. We just came off an Elite Eight run and they tell me I gotta get spinal surgery. And like my legs are going out, like, and then it's the weight of how serious this can all be. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything from me getting hit in the back during a game and my arm going out to somebody hitting me the right way and everything going out. And, I have been paralyzed from the neck down before. So when I came home from Greece and I had to get the second spinal surgery because of some a lack of maintenance from some of the teams I was on, I had to really weigh out my options. Like by this time, it had took a larger effect on me, just because when it happened the first time, since I was in school, we jumped right on it. But like a lot of times overseas, or some of the horror stories about overseas is, if a team gets a steal, they want to make sure it's a steal. So when I came back, I had tore my meniscus while in Argentina. So I had to sit out. And when I came back from that, I basically had to show everybody I wasn't hurt. Because as an athletic big guy, if somebody tears up something in their knee, teams start to worry. So I took a contract in Finland, and basically, and not trying to toot my own horn, just being humble in all sense, but basically, like they knew I wasn't supposed to be in that league. To the point where like it was even sometimes in games like I had a former teammate named Ricky Menard, played at Morehead State, played for the Sacramento Kings back in the day. Like I would sub out of the game and he'd be on the bench and he'd just look at me, he'd be like, "Why are you here?" And I, "What you talking about?" He'd be like, "Bro, you are not supposed to be in this league." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I got to show everybody I can play and I'm healthy." So just going through all those kind of nightmares, because that was the first time that I was in a situation where I couldn't really dictate what was going to be done. So I was I was basically being I ain't gonna say it now. Let me find a better choice of words. I was basically stuck in Finland for like 2 months to where like I couldn't play, I couldn't practice. I was just there, and they were trying to force me to play, and eventually, like I said, they made me go out there, and part of it was because they were either going to get the stats that I was putting up, or they were going to be in a position where a bigger team was going to pay for me to come over to their team or buy out my contract. But yeah, I wasn't in good shape, but they just didn't want to let me go. And so like by me taking so much time to get the right evaluations and the right treatment for it, by that time they had already did some nerve damage that couldn't just be, corrected right away. And so like by that time I had to really ask, like, I love basketball, but like I also want to be able to play with my kids. I also want to be able to, drive myself to the store and stuff like that. So that's when I decided that I was like, yeah, I'd rather be able to coach my son and teach him the game rather than him, have to push me around Walmart. So that's what inevitably made my decision to just kind of step away and kind of take care of my body. Now I play it's more controlled environments and men's leagues, and I know when I don't have to prove myself. You know what I mean? Like if the game's getting out of hand, I'm like, yep, set me out. I just go to the sideline, kick off the shoes, sit back and watch.
For sure. So you grew up in Washington, D.C. During the late to mid 2000s. obviously, I mean, both Sam and I, we've grown up in Kansas. We watched a lot of the guys that grew up in like the local area in Kansas City in that time. But for you, what was it like in Washington, D.C., and was the Washington, D.C. basketball circuit very competitive?
Uh, Knowing what I know now, yes. Uh, it's like I can't even like it's so much talent. It's almost it's almost a norm. Like I was telling somebody the other day that like everybody in my neighborhood could play some like every sport. Like everybody in my neighborhood could play football, basketball, just everything. Like even in my neighborhood, we had a guy go to the NFL, play for the New York Giants. So or even like growing up, Mike Beasley and Kevin Durant were playing on the same AAU team at 13. So, seeing all these guys in such a close proximity, like within a 50-mile radius, we kind of all live by each other. You know what I mean? Like from Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, Nolan Smith, Tywan Lawson, Austin Freeman, Jeff Green, and like it can just go on and on. Like we kind of make jokes, or we used to make jokes about like if Maryland and Georgetown could find a way to just recruit DMV kids, like it'd be like they should be top 25 teams every single year. I mean, because even if you go into the later years and you see the guys like who came up under me, like, I remember watching Quinn Cook when he was, 11 years old, to, the Grant brothers, Jeremy, Jurian, and, those guys. To then you get the Victor Oladipos, and then you keep moving down the lines and you get the Sadiq Bays. And I'm a real student of the game when it comes to like my city and like guys who come from there because I mean, in the tri-state area, I think we are. I think maybe historically we may have the. I might be wrong because of California, but I know we got a ton of NBA players, and I think that we are in the same breath as the Chicago's and the New York areas, and now like everybody's starting to give like Jersey their respect. Um, I don't know how people outside look at DC, but I always looked at it as like a hotbed of just pure basketball, man. It's like a Shark Tank. You know what I'm saying? At any given day, growing up, you can walk into any open gym and you can find a pro. You know what I mean? I remember me and Rodney Magruder were going to do a workout in Uptown DC. We go in the gym and Dante Cunningham, that played at Villanova, played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, New Orleans Pelicans for a while. He's in there working out. And then we finish the workout, we play in pickup, and I'm matched up against him. So I also remember being a 15-year-old playing against Lonnie Baxter, NCAA champion at the University of Maryland. Um, so it's just like you're almost forced to be good. You can't hide from anybody because everybody's good. Like you can't say coming out of middle school like, well, I'm gonna go to this school because they don't have no players. I'm gonna get all the shots. Like, nah, it's no school like that. Um, but like now, I think being in Kansas City has made me appreciate it or see it a lot more clear. Just because here it's a little bit more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get to run into people as much, especially on the high school level. Especially with like Kansas and Missouri rules and all that stuff. But I think like back then that's what made us so good. Like it wasn't a ton of rules in Maryland and DC. It was just like whatever's gonna get the kids better and get them an opportunity. So like if we was without coach all summer, we was without coach all summer. If we were playing AAU and four of us were on an AAU team together and we all went to school, that was just is what it is. Because at the end of the day, like once you stack it up, like you can't protect people. You know what I mean? You can't. Like I tell the kids, and this is no knock on anyone who plays it. By all means, I understand development and I understand the passion and the growth of the game now. But like when I tell my kids now that play for Kiba, I'm like, dude, there was no C team where I'm from. There was no C team. There was no freshman team. You either played JV or varsity. And if you were a junior, senior, you couldn't play JV. And that was just the way it is. You know what I mean? And so I tell these guys now that they have a lot more opportunity, but it also shouldn't be something you settle for. You know what I mean? And that's something that me and Jackson talk about a lot. And when I try to give to Kiba, funny story, I get into it with a ref one weekend because my kid's getting fouled and I'm trying to like argue for him. And the ref's kind of like, man, I need you to tone it down. And I'm like, listen, man, and this is no offense to the county. I'm like, man, I'm coaching some Johnson County kids. Like, like we're playing Missouri Phenom right now. Like, if I don't give them some of my energy, we are gonna get ran out of here. So, um, growing up there helped me develop a mentality, of especially even when I wasn't the best. Even like I was, I was not good. And I never forget, like I was in a varsity game, and I had a senior who averaged like 2 points a game, and he subbed out, and he made me scoot down. And this is before they got the nice chairs and stuff. Now this is when you just used to sit at the end of the bleachers. And I slid down, and I got a splinter, a real life splinter. And that's when I was like, oh nah, I was like, I'm never going through this again, dude. And from that point, that's when I just started paying attention, and I started learning about the Kevin Durant's. And I hate to keep naming these two guys, but like Kevin Durant and Michael Beasley are probably the most two notable names as of recent. But I started learning about these guys, and I started seeing like, oh man, Kevin Durant lived two neighborhoods over from me. And it started to be, and he's the number one player in the country. So it started to be more realistic to where I think kids here in the Kansas City area, they don't really see a lot of the high top profile guys who are from here. If they do, if they are from here, they might go to a Bishop Miege or something where people don't really get to see them as much unless you follow the private school circuit. But then a lot of guys go away to school. So then, you don't get like kids probably don't even know that the point guard for North Carolina right now is from Kansas City. You know what I mean? Because they don't Kyan Evans, because they don't get to see these guys. So we're like, man, we would see each other every single day, and every player would make each other better. I might be in the gym, and Steve Francis might walk in. You know what I mean? And he might be like, hey, young fella, dude, that like you don't really get that same type of atmosphere here. And that's what we hope to change, just from a keeper standpoint. But like me as a coach and a skills developer, like I hope to change that mentality. Like you can do it right here in Kansas City. You can be the number one player here in Kansas City.
Mhm. Right. So, uh, transitioning into the college atmosphere, you had several offers to go to a lot of power programs.
Mhm.
Maryland, which you mentioned before, how they were big to well they tried to to get some guys from the Washington D.C. area, Villanova, Georgetown, and then obviously Kansas State, which is where you committed to. Um, what was it like being recruited by those programs or other programs that I might have not named back in 2007?
It was absolutely unbelievable. Um, I think a common misconception about guys who are top ranked or make it to be a McDonald's. I think that a lot of people think that we are designed that way, that the game of chance doesn't necessarily play its role. Um, but man, it literally changed. I tell people all the time it changed overnight for me. One night I played in a tournament one weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the University of Cincinnati, Adidas Take Five. And I had a great tournament. Didn't think much of it, or I wasn't thinking about like how many points I was scoring. I was just like playing. And after that tournament is when they came out with I think the top 40 for that my year's sophomore class, and I came in at number 23. And I just I don't know, like it was a never ending cycle of working, you know what I mean? And like when kids now ask me about like being recruited and ranked and stuff like that, dude, it is still surreal to me. Like it's surreal to me to realize like I done got phone calls from, Roy Williams or something like that. Um and like I try to tell them my turnaround isn't ideal. Like I said, it literally went from me knowing who I am to one day I wake up, I'm number 23 in the country. I got the University of Georgia outside of my math class trying to talk to me. And it felt like I don't know. It felt like the most desirable prom day, dude. Like everybody's calling you nonstop. Um, Coaches are trying to figure out, exactly what to say. You're trying to, you want to be humble when you're so honored, but then you also realize that picking a school is a business decision after a while. So like you got to kind of know your worth. And but I would say the best part about all of that, or that part of my journey, was just getting to meet all the players I did and all the different people. Like me and Travis Relaford played on the USA team together when I was 16. You know what I mean? And full circle, we playing against each other at KU and K State 4 years later. So those stories and that, like, 7 degrees of separation that you finally get to see come back around full circle. Or, you start to get understandings of like how you impacted the game. Like I remember I was at a Wizards game one time and John Wall's on the bench flagging me down and I'm in the stands. And now everybody in the stands looking at me like, who the hell is this guy? And, after the halftime, John comes up to me and he's like, excited to see me because we had been teammates at the Jordan game and all that stuff. And just seeing how like excited he was to see me, like it gives you a lot more reward than just, I don't know, I guess getting a Division I scholarship or anything like that. Like you really form friendships with people. Me and DeMarcus Cousins were inseparable until Kentucky stepped in the way. But
Mhm.
but not, but I mean, like that's the biggest thing I can take from it is like getting the chance to meet these real people and getting all these tokens of guidance. Whether it was from somebody my age or like I got a chance to play for Lionel Hollins, who is a well-traveled NBA coach. He was an NBA champion with the Portland Trail Blazers, coach for the Brooklyn Nets. Um, I believe the Lakers, Memphis Grizzlies is probably his most notable teams with the Tony Allens and the Zach Randolph. So I got to play for guys like that. And at the end of the day, like for me, it was never, like I said before, it was never about money, dude. I really found my home in basketball, and I just love to learn. Like even now, I sit down and I'll watch probably the worst NBA teams ever. I'll watch a WNBA game. I'll watch camp games on YouTube if it's related to basketball. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to learn as much as I can and leave as much as I learn.
So, were you the recruiting class after Michael Beasley, or were you in the same recruiting class?
Year in between. So
Okay.
he came out 2007. I came out 2009.
Okay. Did seeing Michael Beasley go into K-State have any influence about you choosing K-State?
How many years has it been? No, yeah, yeah, it did. I mean, obviously, DC and well, the DMV area and my AAU team had a very noticeable influence on Kansas State. I mean, like just my freshman year alone, I think it was 6 of us from DC. Um, but Mike played kind of a part, but it was more like the family atmosphere. I knew Delonte Hill, and I trusted him. Um, my another guy who coached me, Bruce Shingler. He was on the coaching staff like the year before. So it was just like people who I knew wanted me to be better and wanted to help me get better. And I knew it was genuine. You know what I mean? It wasn't about me being a lottery pick. It wasn't about me being whatever they were writing about me. It was just about like they knew my story. They knew where I came from. They knew all my hardships I went through, and they wanted to see me succeed. Mike's influence was more like once I got on my trajectory to be McDonald's or whatever, they wouldn't let me and Mike separate. So we was together a lot. Especially like when he was going through the process of preparing for college and then preparing for the NBA. So learned a lot from him, a lot of tutelage under him, just being in those workouts. But then what really attracted me and Rodney, as far as with Mike's situation and Bill, and watching Jacob was like Frank let his freshmen kind of learn through their mistakes. He let them play. And relied on him. It wasn't like he was just giving Mike the ball because he was a number one high school player. Nah, he was a part of the offense. Because if you look back, there were games where Mike struggled probably to start a game, but Frank kept going to him or kept finding a way to implement him into the offense. So, and I like that small town feel. I feel like Manhattan would have gave me a lot more to, hone in on and just lock in on playing basketball. But yeah, with the Mike thing, dude, it was once again it was a gift and a curse. It was the funniest thing to come up under because like when you look at it, the year before you had Kevin Durant, then next year you had Mike. So Kevin averaged 25 and 11, Mike averaged 26 and 12, and then the next All-American from our area, there was a gap in between, and then it was me. So I used to make jokes with Rodney all the time. I was like, dude, if I average 5 points, they're going to kill me. Thank God I averaged like 6 my freshman year. So.
Wally, so you mentioned earlier you played for Frank Martin. He was a terrific coach at Kansas State during his time and then went to South Carolina. He was really known for being kind of like a really like a loud, like hard-nosed type coach. What were some of those like practices like with him coaching you guys? And then what was like the maddest he ever got at you?
And me personally?
Yeah.
Uh, well, that's the first part of the question. Like, practices was always intense. Like, when I left K-State, I felt like if I could make it through a K-State practice, like I could make it through any practice. We were mandatory, 3-hour practice. You know what I mean? 2:45 on a good day. And it was just nonstop. You know what I mean? It wasn't no water break, guys. It was from one drill to the next drill, to the next breakdown, to the next drill. You got water while you were on the sideline waiting to sub in or something like that. Like it wasn't any breaks. Man, with Frank, I learned so much. Like I learned so much from a defensive standpoint. But his practices, man. See, he wasn't always hard. It was certain days where like he was cool. And just was kind of let us kind of shake off some of the rest from probably laying around or being college students. And that's usually what came after like us going on the win streak. But if we lost some games, yeah. Practice was practice is crazy. I remember I remember one practice, right? I wish I knew who we were about to play. I know it was like over like Christmas break. And dude, we're in practice for 2.5 hours, 2:45. I think by this point, we at that 2:45, we probably ran for about 2 hours of it.
Oh my gosh.
Like, dude, I'm talking about 17s after 17s after 17s, and then 22s. Like, we started our first 2 hours of practice with no basketball. And He finally gives us the basketball. He finally gives us the basketball, and we're going through some sets. And and this is when Brad Underwood, the head coach of Illinois, he was one of our assistants, and we had a new point guard, a guy named Javal Miles, and he like comes off a screen, gets downhill, makes a play or something. I think the ball that got tipped went out of bounds, or like the guy missed a shot. So when he goes back up to the top of the top corner to reset to try to run it again, Brad's giving some pointers like, "Hey man, next time like look for the pin down on the other side." And Javal goes, "Yes sir, yes sir." And Frank goes, "Oh, so we got a smart ass. Basketball's down." he goes, "Basketball's down." And so everybody like what? Like what you mean? He's like, "Nah, we got a Mr. Yes Sir, No Sir. He wants to be a smart ass. And we're gonna run." Funniest moment of my college career. Curtis Kelly drops to his knees and just goes and starts screaming, dude. And then man, we ran, and it gets close to the end of practice. Probably got about 10 minutes left in practice. Frank calls everybody in. And he goes, "Hey fellas, I want you guys we're gonna break down. You guys head up to the locker room. Say, get your mind right. Say, go get you some water. It's a Gatorade machine in there. Grab you some Gatorade, whatever you need to do." He said, we're gonna give you about 30 minutes. Then the managers are gonna bring you your second practice loop, and we're gonna start this all over again. So we went through 2 hours and 50 minutes of practice, and then he was like, "Yeah, I don't like how it's going. We're gonna start it all over again." Dude, it was an epic time. That was a fun and concerning time in my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those Frank Martin practice, it reminds me of the movie Hoosiers when they first had their first practice and Norman Coach Dale just doesn't have them shoot at all. They make them run suicides, and then they're just like, "What is this?" And he was like, "We're like in the army." He's like, "You're in my army. We are. You're in my."
Right.
That's what get me Frank Martin. That's what I think of. But do you ever watch? I remember. Have you ever watched on YouTube? There's like this 3 minute clip. It was like Frank Martin angry at practice, and they have like Jingle Bells playing in the background. Have you ever watched that?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Oh
But now
man,
it's gonna be on my search engine now.
yeah. But
That's
yeah, for sure. But your freshman year was one of the best seasons in the history of Kansas State basketball in recent memory. You know, one of the few teams that have made the Elite Eight in recent years. The one game I want to talk about with you was the Xavier game, which was one of the most classic March Madness games you would ever watch, and probably one of the greatest games you've ever probably played in. What was it like playing in that game, and how were you guys able to pull through to make it to the Elite Eight?
um just some hindsight on that story. So you know how K-State, how we used to do the tunnel dance?
Yeah.
So earlier that year we played Xavier at Bramlage during the winter break. And all right, before the game, like everybody gets to the locker room and like everybody's dragging because we don't have class. And it's winter break. Nobody's on campus. So the tunnel dance actually started that Xavier game because we was just trying to get hype because we wanted to go home. So then Jordan started doing the beat. So that was the actual birth of the tunnel dance. But then we go out and we end up, I want to say we beat them by 20. And, Frank kept telling us, he was like, "Man, they're a good team. They just got to like figure it out." Like they got great players because I see they had Jordan Crawford, Tu Holloway, Mark Lyons. So they had a decent squad of guards. They also had a solid wing. I can't remember his name, but he kept telling us, he was like, "Man, they're a good team. They just like they got some knuckleheads, but once they get past that, like I'm telling you, like I'm warning you. So when we beat them by 20 at home, we like, yeah." So now we see them in the tournament, and they kind of rolling, and just the whole atmosphere from how they came into Brandlage to how they came into Utah was totally different. Like the confidence of what they were doing was just they were sharp. Whether it was like from the downstream, Jordan Crawford had got his confidence of being a pro, which he eventually was, and man, that was one of the funnest games I ever played in my life. That game and the Butler game, one of the funnest games I ever played in, just because it was so back and forth, and it was just like you never really knew the outcome. And then like when Chris Merriweather fouled the guy on the three at the end of the game, oh man, dude, we thought we was going home, and it just kept like the game just kept getting better and better and better. I wish it didn't go to a double overtime because we probably would have had a lot more energy up against Butler. But man, nah, that was a hell of a game. And then that Butler game was so special just because like I think that was the first time I got to see pros be pros on the college level. Like we had played some guys earlier that year. Like we had played against Klay Thompson. We had played against James Anderson at Oklahoma State, Craig Brackens at Iowa State. But like Gordon Hayward and Shelvin Mack, like yeah, they were doing pro stuff. They were doing pro stuff for sure. I never forget. Denny gets caught on the screen, going to the left side of the court. I got to switch off on Shelvin Mack, and to this day, I don't know how he got this off, but he hit like a double step back from the corner and shot a three. And I'm talking about greatest, probably one of the best contests of my life. And I turn around and it's going straight to the net. And I was like, oh shit, we're in trouble. And that's how I was finally like, okay, now these guys are really pros. And then that second half, like Gordon Hayward had it going, and it was just like, oh, like these guys are legit pros. But between those two games, those were the two times I really got to see like a guy tap into his pro potential on the college level, which is a crazy thing to see as a freshman.
Yeah, and then think about too, their head coach Stevens ended up coaching in the NBA for the Celtics like a couple of years after that.
Yeah,
Was that were you guys playing in Salt Lake City? Was that where was that?
yeah, Salt Lake City in the Jazz, the
Yeah, what
Utah
was
Jazz arena.
yeah. How was it because that's a place that has like is a pretty high above sea level. What was it like the conditioning like there during that game because sometimes when you go up in the higher oxygen you do or a higher altitude you get like a little bit lower oxygen. So how were you guys like got prepped up for that?
Well, I mean, we were kind of used to it to an extent because like we played because Colorado was still in the Big 12, so we
Yeah,
had to go play. We had to go play in like Boulder. I don't know the difference in elevation, but I mean, it was kind of the same thing. And then like, dude, I was 19. I didn't get tired.
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
like I used to. And I was the two things that factored into me never getting tired was probably I was 19 and I was terrified of messing up in front of Frank. So it was like,
Yeah.
so I remember games just being tired and just playing through fear of getting subbed out. But I think that us playing against Colorado and stuff during the season kind of helped us with that game because I mean, initially, and I played in Utah a couple of times. It's never really affected me crazy. But usually, like once we would get to that first time out, like we all would catch our second win. But no, it's definitely a real thing. The altitude is definitely a real thing. I just think that like, man, hats off to the K-State staff, dude. Like I think we used to prep under such harsh conditions
Yeah.
that it's like just didn't like really affect us that bad. Like summertime in Manhattan, it might get to like 105,
Yeah.
and we would be in the indoor football facility with the heat lamps on, running shuttles. You know what I mean? So it's like we had been through the kind of like the worst of the worst conditions. so
Yeah.
so the altitude was just like once we got to that first time out, that second one kicked in, we were fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a Nuggets game a couple months ago, and before they do, like, they announce the opponent, they remind you that you're in high altitude, and they tell you, like, all these things as, like, an intimidating factor. for their opponent. And then they announce the opponent's like elevation above sea level before.
Right.
So
Any advantage, man.
they definitely in Denver they definitely remind you of that as their home court advantage. But next I want to ask you. So you ended up deciding to transfer and finish out your career at Rutgers. Talk about what was it like deciding to make that decision, and what was it like going from Manhattan, Kansas to New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Like I say all the time, dude. I never thought of myself as being like high profile, at all. But like what led to the decision was like when I announced I was leaving K State, it was so much publicity around it. Then and I'll be honest, I got a lot of hate mail and things like that, and you know, I just wanted to be somewhere with somebody I could trust. You know what I mean? I wanted to be somewhere where it didn't matter like what position I was playing. Um, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about going on to the NBA. It was just about like me enjoying this game for as long as I could.
Mhm.
And so when it came down to Rutgers, or me choosing Rutgers, uh, my assistant coach, David Cox, he had been knowing me and my family since I was about 13. And he was like a principal in Washington, D.C. And he's actually the key reason why I went to K State. Because I was going to go to Georgetown where he was, but he was the one college coach that he didn't blow smoke. He told me straight how it was, and when he did that, like I respected it, and I always had it in the back of my mind. So like when it came down to making a choice, I was like, I want to go with somebody I could trust. And from our history together, from him just always being a straight shooter with me, that's kind of what formed my decision. And also getting back on the East Coast, like as a kid, I had been away. Like as a kid, I had been on my own since I was 14. Like didn't live with my parents. I'm, living on my own and trying to figure all this stuff out. Uh, like even at 16, like I'm down in Florida, but I'm by myself. No parental guidance. Just me in my dorm room, and I wanted to be somewhere where like I had somebody. You know what I mean? And a lot of times at K State, things would go on because of my family's misfortune and also me being halfway across the country that my mom couldn't always make it to me. My mom or my dad or whoever couldn't just, you know, come help me out, or even just it was like just pulling up to make a home cooked meal. I didn't have it. So I wanted to be closer to home, which it was gonna be Maryland, but like Gary Williams retired right as I was about to commit. So I ain't really trust that situation after that. And so my mom was able to make it up to Rutgers, come up the turnpike. So uh, it was a benefit in that regard. Um, but one of the things that I did take for granted, and it's crazy, I was just talking about this the other night, was being at K-State, I took winning for granted. I took, not saying like it was easy, but I didn't think it was as hard. You know what I mean? And when you play on a team with a Jacob Pullen, with Denny Clementes and Curtis Kellys and the Rodney McGruder's, like it's not like you're depending on them to get you over the hump, but like it's always good to have those teammates or sidekicks. So it's good for you to be their sidekick and complement each other. To be like when I got to Rutgers, man, we had like 5, 6 incoming freshmen. We had a bunch of upperclassmen that never won. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, didn't know how to win. But if you look at like Rutgers history, like they had the capability of winning. They would get a big win every year, whether it was versus Villanova, Florida, or whoever. It would be at least one big win every year. But it was just trying to find that consistency. And man, that was the biggest thing I I figured out at Rutgers was like I took winning for granted because like no matter how hard I tried, dude, like you gotta have the right chemistry. You gotta have the right people aboard. You gotta have like everything has to complement the formula. And I think up there because of a lack of a family atmosphere, because like even at K State when we lost, we were still family though.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? We would lose and we would, lick our wounds together. We would all be at Jacob's house playing NBA 2K or something until we felt better or something like that. But at Rutgers, it was kind of like we would lose or something, and everybody would just kind of go do their own thing.
Mhm.
And then it showed me how much or how important it is not only to be a leader, but to have people willing to be led, or you know what I mean? Because like I used to try to give advice from just things I experienced, like from being on the Elite Eight team, and guys would be like, "Ah, oh, yeah, whatever."
Mhm.
Like it is the Big East. That ain't gonna happen here, and it's like because we like when I looked at that team, man, we had all the tools to make noise in the Big East and possibly work our way into the tournament. It was just at times when it was time for us to get over the hump, we I don't want to say had selfish moments, but we had moments where just guys didn't know how to win.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like knock on them. It wasn't like they were bad players, nothing like that. It was just like you got to go through the woes to understand. You got to go through the wars and know how to pull out a victory in the end. And with six freshmen, man, that was just it was hard to do.
Oh, no doubt about that. What was it like? Did you get the chance to play in the Big East tournament at MSG?
Yeah, I got a record there.
Oh, very. What was that record?
Most points without a miss. So like,
Wow,
yeah, my junior year, we opened up against like DePaul. I think I had 20 and 10 with no misses.
that's cool. What was it like being inside, like just Madison Square Garden in general? Just
Oh, I mean, I love it. I love it. I think it's like being on a stage. Like when you in that, because I played there in high school too for like the Jordan game and stuff. So like I was already familiar. I never had a bad game in Madison Square Garden. Like Jordan game, I, I think I probably got bumped down now, but at one point I was one of the top 20 scorers in Jordan game history. But obviously, it comes with time. You get old, they pass you by. But like just playing it is almost like being on the stage. Like when you look into the crowd, you can't see anybody. So like when you're on the court, like I couldn't see anybody on the outside. And no, it was definitely a dope experience. A lot of stars in the building from like Fat Joe, Akon, Tiana Taylor. And then I also had the privilege of Michael Jordan yelling at me. Um, that was pretty cool in hindsight. At the time, I was like, damn, I think Michael Jordan don't like me. Uh, but nah, man, it's when they say it's the mecca of basketball, me being a DC guy, I'm like, man, whatever. New York try to claim everything, but nah, it really is, dude. Like I've played in a lot of arenas. There's no other experience like Madison Square Garden.
Was it better than the T-Mobile Center when you played in the Big 12 tournament?
Nah, because we got further. No, I made it to the chip in T-Mobile. I was going second round in Madison Square.
so. What were some of your favorite venues you got to play in, whether it was in the Big 12 or in the Big East, outside of your home venue, like Bramlage Coliseum? Like,
I mean, I with George. Well, anytime we got like teams with NBA arenas, that was always dope. Just because the backdrops to the basket feel different. So when you're like shooting, it's just a different like focus. But I would say like Georgetown because they would play in the Jesus. I don't even know what they call it. It used to be the MCI Center. Now I don't know what it is
I always
now.
think of it Verizon Center out of it still, but
Right, yeah, all right, yeah. So they played with the Wizards play, so that was dope. Um, I used to like gyms like Oklahoma and Baylor. Their gyms are kind of real similar, but
Mhm.
like that kind of blacked out. show lights all focused on the court kind of feel. So I would say I like Baylor. I like Baylor for sure. Especially against that team that they had that year. Jesus Christ. They had like Lace Darius Dunn, Efe Udo, Tweety Carter, Josh Lomers, Kevin Jones. Like they were loaded. So Baylor, UConn, depending on which arena they use, because they got like 3 of them. Syracuse was unbelievable because like you're on the court and you can kind of see the bleachers, but then these bleachers to your left, like it's hard to fathom that it's like an entire football field back behind. But it was just huge. Got a chance to, not in college, but got a chance to play in the Dean Dome or see some games in the Dean Dome, and that place is nice. The toughest place to play, in my opinion. Oh my God, I hate saying this. Probably KU. Probably was KU. Just because it's like it's opposite, right? Like when they're loud, like when the fans are loud, you kind of know you're in the game. When they get quiet, you kind of know you're not. So, and I just remember freshman year we playing at KU. We go on like a 8 or 10 point run. I caught a putback dunk and dunked on Cole Aldrich. Bill takes a timeout, and the fans were like, "Wow, super loud." I'm like, why are they so loud? Like I just dunked. That's weird. And Frank subs me out, and I'm sitting on the bench, take a sip of water. I remember it was me and Denny Clemente sitting next to each other. I take a sip of water, and like we was down like 4. I look at Denny. I'm like, yeah, man, it's tough. I'm like, man, Frank get us back in, and I look up and we down 8. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, man, when Frank get us back in, I look up and we down 16. I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I'm like, man, I'm not looking up no more. So I was like, man, come on, try and cheer my teammates on. And I just noticed that the crowd started getting lower and lower and lower. And I was like, damn, why is it so quiet? And then you start hearing that eerie chant, that rock chant. And you be like, you look up, you down 25, you're like, oh, Jesus. So yeah, that was probably the toughest place to play.
Yeah, I think I remember that dunk too. I think it was like early in that first half, and that was like a really impressive play you had. And that was, I believe that was Sharon Collins' senior night too. So that was,
Yeah, I mean, ESPN top 10 play.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Shout out Cole.
So Sharon Collins coaches at Oak Park. Do you ever come across cross paths with him now?
Yeah, we actually coached with each other for 2 years. So
Okay.
I was his assistant up there, and the JV head coach for 2 years, and then man, me and Sharon, like, yeah, we cool. Like it's just funny how it all came together, because like literally it was the anniversary of K-State KU, that big Monday game that went to overtime. Yeah, and I've always been pissed at that because when they showed it, every highlight for Big Monday, if you watch it, it's the play when Sharon comes off the ball screen and Curtis Kelly couldn't get there in time, so he gets downhill and he jumps for a layup, and I go vertical. And this was like a freshman senior call for sure. And he smacks my arm and lays the ball up, and they gave him an and one. And I fouled out. And so literally I had just seen it pop up on Facebook of like it's the anniversary of this big time game. And I was going up to the Hy-Vee arena to go see like some youth teams play. And I'm walking through and I see Sharon. And I'm like, bro, you know we are attached at the hip throughout time forever now. And he was like, I was just thinking that too. He's like, I just watched the same play. And then like, man, we laughed about it. And then we was just like, man, if there's ever an opportunity to coach together, like, let's do it. And did a good job at Oak Park. You know, we'll be fourth place our first year, and then state championships this past year. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to coach Corbin Allen?
Yes.
Yeah, what was he like coaching him, and how do you think what do you hope that he can do at what can he do at KU in the future?
Corbin's a worker. Like you might not see it all the time, but he's a worker. And I think the best part about him being at KU is like I used to tell him before certain games, especially like after you won the Renner. I used to tell him certain games, I used to like show him show him who you are. Like show him why you are who you are. You know what I mean? Because I think that in this area or at Oak Park, Corbin met some challenges, but with such a good team around him and him being such a dominant player in the area that it never really challenged him. Like he could pick and choose when to turn it on. And he always used to pick the right moments to, turn it on. And I think the greatest thing about him being at KU and like what I told him going into his freshman year, I was just like, dude, you have a golden opportunity to kind of like learn on the fly. There's no pressure on you to be a draft pick. There's no pressure on you to lead them to a national title. Like right now is Darren Peterson's ship, and you get to not only learn from a pretty good player your age, but then you get to learn from his mistakes while watching. Same thing Sharon used to tell him. He's like, man, the best thing about his time at KU is that he got to watch Mario and Russell and those guys mess up. So when he got in the game, he knew what to do or he knew what Bill expected. And it's like the same thing I told Corbin. I'm like, you can watch that and just keep learning, bro. Like there's like I said, there's no pressure on you to shoot up the draft boards. Right now the only challenge for you is to get better, and you're in the right place to do it. But I think that because he's decided to sit out this year, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Um, I believe next year we're going to see a Corbin Allen that we've never seen before. I think this summer he's a great kid, man, from a great family. And he's so positive and like resilient, and he's always been around basketball. And I think that like when things challenges him, he gets tougher. And it's not something that you see generally in a lot of kids nowadays because they have so many options to where it's like Corbin is willing to like persevere through something. He's not just gonna, tuck his tail and run or go to it because he could have went to any other school, man. Like he was committed to what, San Diego at first, I
Yep.
believe. Like he could have went to any other school who was pumping smoke or trying to make him be a star or telling him he was going to be a star. I think like Murray State was also he was on their radar as well. Um, but he chose to go to KU because he knew that that's what was going to challenge him the most. And I think that speaks volumes for a character of a kid. Like you can choose to go to some mid-major who rolls out the red carpet or some, lower major who is putting the ball in your hands and relying on you heavily, or you can go somewhere where you are around 11 other monsters or 11 other sharks, and you have no choice but to either learn how to be a shark or you're going to fail. And I think that that's an environment that suits him perfectly. I think he's willing to learn how to be a shark.
Awesome. Awesome. One more question for you, Wally. Any advice to those chasing their dreams?
Make sure they stay your dreams, man.
Mhm.
Like the biggest hurdle, one of the biggest hurdles in my career is that like I didn't have as much, like whether it was parental guidance or adult guidance. I can talk about it now. Statute of limitations over, but I remember like going to have meetings with like shoe companies and like marketing companies and stuff like that. And I'm like a junior in high school, dude. And I just remember at one point, like the game wasn't fun.
Mhm.
the point that I got to when I thought everything was going to be fun was probably the worst part of it. Like, you see top ranked guys, they come out with all the shoes and they got special shoes or all the gear and stuff. And they going here, going there. And when I did get to that point where like all that stuff was coming, I also started to feel like I had to perform every night. And it's a difference between playing the game and having fun with it and loving it and having to perform it. You know what I mean? Like the word perform is a very emotionless word. You know what I mean? Like you can go perform something without caring about it. Like, and every night I felt like, damn, if I don't get 20 points and 20 rebounds, like people gonna hate me. And same thing I said as a freshman at K-State. If I only score 5 points, they're gonna hate me. And so now my biggest message to kids, man, is whenever they ask me about basketball, I say, man, keep it fun. Keep it fun because you don't know how it's gonna turn out. Like I never knew I would get the opportunities I did. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not about talent most of the time. It's about uh it's just about those moments. And everybody don't get those moments. You know what I mean? Like I was fortunate enough to make it onto an AAU team that put me in the right tournaments, that put me in the right gyms, that put me in front of the right cameras. Like I had a hoop mixtape and didn't even know about it. So I was in the right places, but I had to capitalize on those moments. And I think if I was focused on performing then, I wouldn't have. But I didn't know it was cameras over there. I didn't know it was rivals.com over there, whoever. I just was enjoying the game and playing. So I tell kids, man, please, please, please. And if you are a parent that is coaching your kid, uh, or even just trying to help them with their dream, man, like make sure they keep it fun, dude. Like I even tell my son now, like we'll be working out, and I think he has an idea of perfection because of stories he hears about me or videos and all that stuff. Like, and I keep telling him, dude, you have to embrace and you have to love the challenge of failing. Like my biggest days came from moments in the gym where I probably had my worst shooting day practicing. And I think that a lot of kids, like, you have to fall in love with the challenge of getting better and not the gratitude of succeeding. You know what I mean? So if I had one message, that'd be the thing that I always echo, man. Make sure you make this game fun. That's why it's a game.
Absolutely. That's why we play it because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly, man. If you one of my favorite lines by Dave Chappelle, he said, man, name your price when you get in. And if it exceeds that, pull out.
Hmm.
So
So while this is something funny, if you actually go on your Wikipedia page, it's edited that you have three cats.
I don't know who did that. One of my sixth graders, one of my sixth graders on Kiva asked me about that, and I have no idea who keeps doing that stuff. I don't know why my Wikipedia page is so important, but I actually had another coworker who did that one time. Like I was getting ready to go on like a blind date with a girl, and she asked how tall I was, and I was like 6'9", 6'10", and she didn't believe it. So I was like, no, just Google it. And she goes and looks it up, and one of my coworkers changed it to like said I was like 5'7", 170 or something like that. So yeah, I do not have three cats. I do not at all. I'm not a cat person. Now I gotta do some research and get to the bottom of who put that up there. I'm matter of fact, I'm about 100% sure it was one of our eighth graders. 100% sure.
Well, yeah. But Wally, thanks for coming on again. Different perspective. Like we get, like I said early on in the podcast, we get so many different college athletes, either current or former. So it's really great to see what your perspective was, and it was also great because uh, you didn't grow up in the Kansas City area. You live here now, but it's much different now than when you lived in Washington D.C. So uh, it was just great hearing your perspective on growing up, and plus, Sam and I, we don't want to make you too old, but I mean, we grew up watching you when we were in like uh 10 or 11 years old. So um it is fun to talk to someone that we saw when they played, and when we were younger, when we watched them, we were so innocent. We just watched these guys play basketball, and now we're talking with them. So it's an honor.
No, man, I definitely appreciate like things like that is the reason why I played the game. Like I said, it never was about money. It was always about like a legacy and like just having people remember you, throughout time. It's kind of cool. And yes, dude, I told you I know I'm old. I sold a car while watching my game on ESPN Classic. I'm very old. So, but it's cool, man. I look young. I try to stay in some shape, drink my water. So, but I appreciate you guys, supporting for so many years or just being as tuned in as you have been.